At cruising altitude, separation standards are often measured in miles of horizontal distance and 1,000 feet of vertical clearance. I'm Captain Ponkish Pale. Over 17 years, I've seen how internalizing the DGCA syllabus turns the chaos of busy airspace into a disciplined, manageable environment. Aviation does not tolerate neglect. The regulations we study today are your exact baseline for survival in the air. The air traffic services structure exists to execute two specific objectives: prevent collisions between aircraft and maintain an orderly, predictable flow of air traffic. This technical data provides the legal and structural boundaries for operating in high-density sectors. You are learning the parameters required to maintain separation in complex flight environments. To maintain that order, the DGCA divides air traffic control into 3 specific jurisdictions, each responsible for a distinct phase of flight. First is the Area Control Service. This unit manages controlled flights in the high-altitude airways while they are en route between designated destinations. Next is the Approach Control Service. Their jurisdiction covers critical transition phases, managing aircraft actively arriving to or departing from an aerodrome. Finally, the Aerodrome Control Service takes over at the surface, managing the active runway, immediate traffic circuit, and aircraft on the ground. Here is a critical point for your exam. Aerodrome control has specific authority over the maneuvering area. The DGCA frequently tests your ability to distinguish this specific jurisdiction from the apron or en route segments. Those controllers rely on the ATS airspace classification system. India utilizes classes A through G, defining the strict legal framework for who can fly where and under conditions. This table details the ATS airspace classes, cross-referencing separation rules with speed and communication mandates. This is the single most critical reference matrix for your exam preparation. Look at Class A. This is the most restrictive environment. Only IFR flights are permitted, and positive separation is provided by ATC for all aircraft at all times. In contrast, Class B airspace opens up to permit VFR flights. However, notice the separation column. ATC still maintains strict positive separation for all aircraft, regardless of flight rules. Class C introduces a vital nuance. IFR flights are separated from everything, but VFR flights are separated from IFR, yet they are not separated from other VFR flights. They only receive traffic information regarding other VFR traffic. As we move into less restrictive classes, from C down through G, a universal speed limit applies to maintain safety in denser mixed-rule environments. Finally, compare Class D to Class E. While both permit VFR, Class E drops the requirement for a continuous two-way radio for VFR flights. Unless specifically authorized, any flight operating below 10,000 feet above mean sea level in these classes is restricted to 250 knots indicated airspeed. Pay close attention to the phrasing. The DGCA exam will attempt to trick you with true airspeed. The regulatory limit is always indicated airspeed, or IAS. Your mastery of this matrix dictates exactly how much autonomy you hold in the cockpit and precisely how much positive control ATC expects to exert over aircraft. Scaling out from individual control zones, the entire national airspace is divided into Flight Information Regions, or FIRs. India operates 4 primary regions: Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, and Chennai. Every location within these regions uses a 4-letter indicator. Take Delhi, VIDP. V identifies the AFSRA, I designates India, and DP pinpoints the specific station. Within these FIRs, certain blocks are entirely restricted. Prohibited areas, marked with the prefix P, denote airspace where no flights are permitted at any time under any circumstances. Restricted areas, marked with R, allow flight only under specific conditional clearance. Danger areas, marked D, caution pilots of hazardous activities at specified times, requiring extreme vigilance. Military exercises rely on temporary segregated areas and temporary reserved areas. Because these activate and deactivate rapidly, they are identified by specific numerical blocks assigned to each region. You must memorize these exact allocations. Areas in Mumbai FAR use numbers between 501 and 600, while the Kolkata FAR is assigned 601 to 700. Knowing exactly how to read a location indicator and recognize an airspace boundary prevents you from accidentally violating national security zones or flying directly into active hazards. As you approach these complex zones, frequency congestion becomes a critical hazard. The Automatic Terminal Information Service, or ATIS, solves this by continuously broadcasting routine, repetitive data. Pilots can receive this via voice ATIS or a digital D-ATIS link. The regulations dictate absolutely that when both are provided, the information content must be exactly identical. And ATIS broadcast must include strict mandatory components in a specific order: the alphabetical designator, the expected approach, and the active runway in use. There is one major exception. If meteorological conditions are changing rapidly, the weather report is pulled from the ATIS. That volatile information must be passed directly to the pilot upon initial contact. Once you receive information from ATC, strict readback protocols apply. You must explicitly read back the runway in use, your altimeter settings, SSR codes, and level instructions. Take note of this specific exemption for the exam. If you receive an instruction via controller-pilot data link communications, a voice readback over the radio is not required. These protocols verify that the data in the cockpit matches the instructions from the tower, eliminating ambiguity without clogging the primary radio frequency with noise. When standard communication protocols fail entirely, the DGCA alerting service operates as the pilot's final critical safety net. Emergency phases escalate based on precise timelines. Phase 1 is INSURFA, the uncertainty phase. This is triggered the exact moment 30 minutes have passed since an aircraft was expected to communicate. Phase 2 is ALERFA, the alert phase. This triggers if an aircraft has been cleared to land and fails to arrive within 5 minutes of its estimated time, combined with a total loss of communication. Phase 3 is DITRESFA, the distress phase. This is declared when calculations indicate fuel is completely exhausted, or it is reasonably certain that a forced landing is imminent. These are not subjective estimations. They are rigid, chronological, legal triggers that you must memorize perfectly for the exam. In the cockpit, your immediate action is critical. You alert the service by transmitting specific transponder codes. 7700 indicates a general emergency, while 7500 specifies unlawful interference. By relying on strict time limits and specific squawk codes, the system removes human hesitation, allowing rescue coordination centers to deploy emergency resources the second a threshold is crossed. Tying this entire system together are ATS route designators. These predetermined tracks weave through FIRs, classes, and control zones, ensuring predictable, separated flight paths. Routes use supplementary prefixes to define their specific nature. For instance, the prefix K dictates a low-level route, primarily for helicopters, while U indicates a route established exclusively in the upper airspace. Deviate significantly from these assigned routes without clearance, and you legally become a strayed aircraft. ATC will immediately intervene to safeguard the flight, treating it as a critical regulatory breach. From the boundaries of Class A airspace to the precision of an ATIS broadcast, every regulation exists for a single reason: to enforce positive separation and guarantee the safety of every aircraft. Adopt a zero-skip policy for these specific regulations. Review the airspace classification and emergency phase tables at least twice before sitting for your exam. Professional airmanship requires a command of this regulatory framework that goes beyond